the inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Today we take these curb cuts for granted. But believe me, that was not always the case. 25 years ago, the sidewalks in Cincinnati weren't accessible to people with disabilities. But today, thanks to the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, getting around is a lot easier for all of us. So come on, everybody. Let's celebrate the 25th anniversary of this landmark legislation.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. Across the United States tomorrow, people will be celebrating the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Americans for Disabilities Act. The passage of that act, designed to allow people with a range of disabilities to support themselves and create lives of meaning, was passed 25 years ago. The act was the result of decades of advocacy by people with disabilities and their supporters, especially parents of children with disabilities. In the last 25 years, much has changed. Something like curb cuts are very visible, but much else has been accomplished as well, and much still needs to happen. The act itself and the 25th anniversary simply mark moments along a long, dynamic path of social change. I am joined this morning by two people involved with the recognition of the 25th anniversary. Ayers is the advocacy coordinator for the Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities at the University of Cincinnati, and Debbie Moorehous is the development director for SILO, the Center for Independent Living Options here in Cincinnati. At the moment, she also serves as the co-chair of the Cincinnati ADA 25th Anniversary event. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Congratulations on heading up this event, being able to even celebrate this event, always a good thing, sort of thing. Let's begin, though, by just talking very briefly. Kara, what is your disability? I mean, it's obvious.
It's visible. Yes, it's obvious.
And not all disabilities are.
Right, correct. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta. It's a type of dwarfism that causes my bones to break more easily than most. So I use a wheelchair for mobility and some adaptations in my van to get around. That's mostly how it affects me. Okay.
And growing up, could you, in your life, feel the impact of the ADA sort of coming online, and could you actually experience how these changes took place?
Definitely. I grew up in central Kentucky, and I was actually the first child with a disability to be mainstreamed in my public school district. And that was a bit before the ADA, but the ADA had a massive impact in that it allowed me to go to the same public high school in my district with my friends. An elevator was built, and then through my college career as well. I think the ADA gives people a little bit of boost in promoting inclusion. It helps people problem solve and work together because there's this motivation to do so, to comply with the law.
Debbie, for you, I mean, you work for SILO, but what's your relationship to this effort, to this cause, to this situation?
Actually, I have a daughter who just turned 25, so she's celebrating along with the ADA, and she was born with a developmental disability. So I've seen things evolve for her as well, and overall my passion is that I'm seeing people with disabilities become more socially and economically involved in our community, which would not have happened 25 years ago.
So, you know, I saw that in your bio, and that's one of the reasons I included in there that parents have, for many people and for the country as a whole, been real advocates in terms of pushing a lot of this and making things move forward. So, from your perspective, for your daughter, what has been the impact of the ADA?
I think the largest impact is that she can live in the community of her choice in her own apartment, not independently, but she has the opportunity to have that equal playing ground, that she has neighbors without disabilities in the same building. She attends a day program and goes out socially into the community not independently, but she has the opportunity, and she goes places that are accessible and that do welcome her. And there are some places that I just, can't wait for her to go and visit on her weekly walks or whatever, because there's so many people that accept her. And her disability is visible, so it's very obvious. And they greet her and speak to her just as they would any other young woman.
Okay. So you feel like the AD, you can see, since she's born 25 years ago,
right,
you can really see it. But as she grew up, were there moments where you really had to fight for her?
I've spent so many years advocating for everyone that I was on top of everything. I never had a fight for her, but I've advocated for everyone with a disability, and I've supported parents through some very tough times with transitioning of, into school and out of school. So I've just been a champion for everyone.
Okay. Kara, you're an advocate, you're at UC. What does that mean at this point, 25 years after the passage? What are you looking at? What are you working on at this point?
We're working on a number of issues. There's still so much work to do that I think we're enjoying this week as kind of a brief pause for celebration, but we're working on making some of these goals reality. So making employment a reality for more people with disabilities. As Debbie mentioned, getting more opportunities for living in the community. An issue that I'm passionate about as well is I'm a mother with a disability, and my husband has a disability as well, and parenting with a disability remains to be one of the policy problems in our country. Ohio is one of the majority of states that children can actually be removed from custody on the basis of disability alone with no other reasoning. So that's a big policy issue that we as a country and also as a state, we have a lot of work to do still.
Would that, I had no idea about that. Would
yeah,
that be triggered by that becomes the basis for removing a child if there's some other problem, or does the state intervene?
That's actually the problem, is that these outdated policies, I think that they were written at a time where people with disabilities weren't considered to be kind of potential candidates to live these just basic American lives, American dreams. And so I think we need to do some updating around that and recognize that people with disabilities can very much be parents and be coworkers and neighbors, and so we need to get kind of our policies in line with what we know is a reality.
I saw in your bio you have a child.
2, yep.
You have 2, okay. One of them's adopted, right?
Yes, yep.
And with a disability?
Yes, we brought Eli home last year. We just celebrated this week. His year Family Day got today. So it was an exciting journey to get him, and we worked with the Chinese government through the adoption. So, and that's another reminder that we're so thankful for the ADA, because people around the world with disabilities don't have the same opportunities that Americans with disabilities do.
Okay. Debbie, one of the things that is out there is the whole question of employment, financial, if not independence, autonomy, support. How do you see that at this point?
I think we've made great progress in including people in our places of employment. We're not seeing people with disabilities in menial part-time jobs anymore. They're leading organizations. They are working in corporate positions. Accommodations are being made, but there's still a misunderstanding about how to accommodate an employee and what the value of an employee can be, even in spite of their disability. So I think we still have a lot of work to do with employment issues and forwarding people, especially through service agencies that are helping people gain the employment skills they need to become an employee and remain employed.
What are the employers in Cincinnati you think are the best at doing this, at recognizing the value of having a diverse workforce that represents people with disabilities as well as other backgrounds?
I think there's some very obvious employers that are doing a great job, but I think there's people with disabilities working in every size company, every size business, every little mom and pop, and we're not aware of those people's disabilities because they're not visible. But I think people are making more accommodations for them and accepting them.
The city is doing a great job too. Most recently, Insights and Inclusion is a directive that has moved out as a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, and in part it's grown out of Real Abilities, which was a film festival last spring for
which we always feature on this show when it's in town.
It was very exciting for our city. So that work is still continuing after that festival is over, and so and we're a part of that too at UC UCED, and that is just a collaboration of Cincinnati, as Debbie mentioned, from corporate down to small businesses that are interested in figuring out how to make this employment work.
Both of you have mentioned people who have disabilities that aren't visible, but are significant. What are examples of that? What would you point to?
I think people don't realize that a cognitive disability is not visible, psychological disabilities, sensory, obviously physical disabilities, we can all identify that person immediately. People with Down syndrome have a very distinct facial feature that people can identify. But there's the underlying things that I guess Kara's better at describing what determines a permanent disability or not. But there are all types of disabilities that we're not aware of, that people are struggling with or living with or learning to accommodate.
Do you want to add anything to that? I just point out that I had an employee that had low sight, low vision, and one of the real issues was, since I drive a hybrid, pointing out that at a stop sign or a stoplight, because hybrids shut off, you don't even hear them. He didn't necessarily would pick up the clues that there was a car right there, and you can step into a crosswalk. And so what we think of on the one hand is this environmentally good thing, on another hand can be problematic.
Definitely. And that's one of the challenges, I think, because even with accessibility, something that makes an environment accessible for me could actually make it a little more challenging for someone with a different disability. So that's where living with a disability or living with a loved one with a disability, I think gives us a unique edge to be creative, to think around corners, to problem solve, and so it can actually strengthen our workforces and our community because we bring a unique set of skills.
And so just before we're going to let Robert come back and plug the event, but what's really important about this event on Monday, which is tomorrow? We're airing on Sunday. What's important to you about this?
It's important to me and a committee of probably 45 people who have worked together for a year, because it is a celebration. It is a landmark legislation that has changed things for 25 years, but we're making a call to action to the community to say, let's work together to go through the next 25 years and make it even better and make our community more welcoming and empowering.
So let's keep it moving. That's what we're talking about.
Definitely.
Let's let Robert Harris tell us what's actually going to be going on tomorrow.
On Monday, July 27th, the day begins at City Hall with the first ever Disability Pride March at 9:30 a.m., followed by a big celebration on Fountain Square from 10 until 2. We'll have music, awards, and plenty of can-do spirit. For more information, you can find us on Facebook. Cincinnati ADA 25th Anniversary, Monday, July 27th.
Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for the work you do, and good luck tomorrow. Stay tuned. After the break, the leader of a grassroots initiative in Lower Price Hill.
We heard from the neighborhood that we couldn't leave. A lot of people come to Lower Price Hill and start something or promise something, and then they go away. And a lot of things close here. So it became about how do we stay, and that sort of became what was the driving force behind it.
Welcome back. Lower Price Hill, geographically isolated and challenged economically and socially as much as any neighborhood in the region. It has long been the focus of concern and consternation, but it is also a place of hope and investment. The Cincinnati Public Schools has invested millions not only in rebuilding and modernizing the physical structure of Oyler School, but has developed the most complete community learning center in the system, transforming Oyler into a national model of school and community reform. But down the street, from Euler in the old St. Michael's Catholic Church and School, which has been closed for 15 years in its traditional role. A private group has raised $8 million to transform the buildings into a new kind of resource for the community. I am joined now by Jennifer Walters. Ms. Walters has led the $8 million renovation of St. Michael's and the rebranding of the Lower Price Hill Community School into Education Matters and co-founded the sister organization Community Matters. She is a public interest attorney by training and started working in Lower Price Hill as an educational outreach worker with AmeriCorps. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you. Good morning.
This is in one hand, a long-standing institution, the Lower Price Hill Community School, which has now been transformed. So there's a lot of work that has gone on for a long time to get to this point. But what is it that all of this investment, do you believe, is going to allow you to do in Lower Price Hill?
Well, as you mentioned, we've been in the community since 1971, so we have very deep roots and we're a trusted place in the community. And because of that, we were able to really have these conversations with our neighbors and with other organizations about the direction of Lower Price Hill's future. And what we wanted to ensure was that the people who have lived here for generations and our new neighbors who come and they want to stay in Lower Price Hill, we want to create a place where they can be part of the positive changes and they can really drive those changes. So we view sort of our role as being a facilitator of access to opportunities for both the people who live in Lower Price Hill. We want to make it a place that people want to come and live, a place that people want to come and stay, because traditionally people have moved into Lower Price Hill or grown up in Lower Price Hill, and when they've sort of made it, they've left the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And we want to give the option for it to be a neighborhood where people want to stay and raise their families and can be proud of their neighborhood.
So let's talk first about Education Matters. What will be sort of the focus? What are you trying to accomplish with that?
Sure. Education Matters, our mission is to remove barriers to education. So we provide adult education for people who are at all different levels. Anybody who wants to come from learning basic literacy or basic English skills through entering college in their community can come through our doors and really get the help that they need. We focus on the individual, so all of our classes and all of our instruction is based on one-on-one interaction with our students, and really sort of allowing a safe place where they can change their relationship with education. The GED has been sort of the core of what we've done all these years, and a lot of people think that's very irrelevant now, but the truth is people can't go to that next step without that building block. So even though it's not as popular for some people to want to fund or want to do anymore, we see there's a huge gap in that if we remove that from the equation, so we keep that as part of our core programming.
There's really been a big change in the GED.
Yes.
Yeah, the test itself, the cost of the test, the nature of the test, but still important.
Yes. And we've sort of decided, rather than sort of fight against the change, to embrace it and help our students understand that even though it is more challenging, it really is preparing them more for college or their career. And so we are there to help them through that additional challenge of the new test. And the computer is the way that things are going. So we help our students become familiar with the computer from the very beginning so that when they go to test, it's not another barrier for them.
Because in the GED testing now, it's all online.
It's all online, and as far as the cost, we try to help our students cover that cost because we don't ever want cost to be the reason that somebody can't test.
So besides somebody who might be in need of completing the GED, what other kinds of courses and what other kinds of experiences do you offer through the Education Matters component?
One of the main things that we do that's surprising to a lot of people is we help people who struggle with reading skills. We help people who have graduated from high school, but yet they still are reading at the 3rd grade level. So it's a place in the community where people can come and just sort of get those skills to be successful in their job or successful with helping their kids in school or before they enter college. The entrance exam for college, people say, you can't fail it because no matter what you score, you can still sort of be accepted. But what they don't realize is if they don't score well on that, they're in remedial level classes which cost college tuition, but you don't get college credit. So some of our work deals with helping people come in, really prepare for college so that when they do test in, they test at their highest potential and they're not sort of going back to the beginning and paying money for things that they don't get any credit for.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have a relationship with Cincinnati State particularly, right?
We do.
And what's sort of the idea there? What role do you play in either just sending people to Cincinnati State or preparing them, or what exactly is the relationship?
Sure. We have a college bridge program, and that sort of encompasses everything that you said. We help students who can come just enroll in school and go on to main campus. We help students who need to prepare before they take the entrance exam. And then we offer Cincinnati State classes in the community at our site, which allows for students to start college in an environment where they may be a little more familiar, they have support. We offer free childcare and transportation to get students back and forth, as well as our instructors are there to sort of help them learn how to navigate through college, because I'm first generation college in my family, and it's very daunting when you first go and you're not sure which way to go. So we sort of take that role of being that support system for our students, and while they're with us, we teach them how to do it by themselves when they get up to the main campus and make those connections for them, knowing that we're still there if they have any questions.
So that's Education Matters, or
yes.
at least some of what Education Matters.
Yes.
There's this other part of, or there's another organization that's been created, Community Matters. What's that focused on?
In Community Matters, it really sort of came from the work of the Lower Price Hill Community School for all those years, where we became a place where people would come not just for education, but a place they would come in order to help get assistance in other areas. And when the Archdiocese closed the St. Michael Parish and those services closed, we sort of assumed a thrift store and a food pantry and a soup kitchen, and we had done those as part of our work through the community school over the years, just because we recognized that, one, we had a relationship with the community where we felt like that was the right thing to do, and two, people can't focus on their education if they're hungry or their kids don't have their basic needs met. But when we were able to do our renovation and sort of pause all of our programs, we really took a moment to look at what services we were providing, what the community was needing to be provided, and we talked to them about what that should look like, and we realized that we should keep our education services sort of separate from our community services, and Community Matters really is there in order to facilitate access to opportunity. So we do that in a number of different ways. One, we recognize that you can't really do community development if you're not developing with the people in the neighborhood. So we do family stabilization, and that's sort of where our community market comes in. We have a thrift store, Shop 1847, and we are...
which references the origins of St. Michael's.
It does, it does. And we don't want this to look like, if you envision a pantry or a thrift store, what we do in Lower Price Hill looks very different, and it feels very different, and it feels like it's something that belongs to the community, and it's a place to gather, not just a place to come for social services. Because while we believe that you need those services to continue while you work on other things, our goal really is to sort of move out of the service model and into more of a stable community.
Well, you've been working in Lower Price Hill for a long time.
Yes.
What's your sense of hope about the future? I mean, there's a lot of TV stations can focus a lot of times on the worst part and the worst moments in a community's life or a family's life. So you get a certain picture of Lower Price Hill. What's your view?
Lower Price Hill, I mean, it's home to me. It's a neighborhood unlike any other one I've ever seen in the city. It's a place where the community is very close-knit. And even with changes throughout the city where we had new neighbors come in, it's really a place where people come together to try to meet their own needs. It's very Appalachian in its roots, so there's a lot of that strong pride. And rather than view that as a negative, we really view that as a driving force for what we do. And it is a very small community, so it's a place where you really can see impact. And we believe that if our neighbors have the same access to opportunities as people do in other parts of the city, that they will be a part of what changes Lower Price Hill and what transforms it into the city or into the neighborhood that it really can be. It's got everything we need to be very successful. We're just sort of inviting our neighbors to take part of that with us right now.
So change from the inside.
Absolutely. And there's fear that with that new change that people will be displaced or that it will no longer be their neighborhood. So Community Matters, really our neighbors came to us and said, how can we be sure that this remains ours? And we said, we'd like to facilitate that happening. Come, join in with us. So it's exciting.
And with all the renovation, you'll be up and fully running early October?
Early October. We're going to be doing, we have Bend in the River Music Festival the first weekend in October, and that Friday before that weekend we're going to have an open house where we invite everybody in to see us, to see our space, and to join us in celebrating. Okay,
well, congratulations for all that you've created, and look forward to early October.
Thank you.
To learn more about these twin efforts in Lower Price Hill, go to the websites EM, Education Matters, emcincy.org, or CM, Community Matters, cincy.org. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. It is almost a year since the Hamilton County Commission broke the proposed icon tax in two, cutting Music Hall out of the deal. A year later, where do we stand with the work in Union Terminal? What's the approach? When will the cranes and jackhammers move in? Join me next week for a full update.